I've been a person, and a lot of my friends have been of the mindset that you shouldn't watch the news, that it gets in the way of productive, useful work, and also of feeling empowered in the world, that there are just things that are occurring that are too big, and I'm much better off to focus on my family, community, and any sort of private venture that I might have. Your podcast has recently moved me in the direction of becoming more aware of large social trends that I may or may not need to become involved in. And I'm curious, one, is that the case, that we need people like myself who have been more apolitical to get involved with what is happening today in the world? And if that is the case, how do we know when those times occur and when it is better to step back and go, you know what, I'm going to focus on my small life, build a business, and donate to the charities that I can help with?
Man, what a beautiful question. First of all, I would vehemently disagree. You should definitely watch the news. The problem is it isn't on. So that stuff that looks like the news is dangerous as all hell, and you should probably steer clear of it. But it would be great if we could get the news back, because it served a vital role. As for whether or not people like yourself who have deliberately tuned out of these toxic channels need to step back in other places, I can tell you from watching a bit of your podcast that you're doing a marvelous job of threading that needle, and B, that yes, I think a lot of us are being brought back into the system in places we never expected to be, because it's an all hands on deck moment. And so finding a way to be part of the solution is something that I think many people are feeling called to, and you clearly are, and I wouldn't question it too much.
Got it. So I live in a crowded area in Santa Monica, and if I walk down the street on any given day, there's going to be someone shouting about the end of the world, insisting that I repent for whatever sort of religious reason they have. If I go onto the internet, I can find fringe ideas of all kind, and similar to this idea, it seems to me, the right mode of operating the world to tune these sorts of things out. And so when I hear ideas like #ShutdownSTEM, the idea that we're going to cancel math or engineering, that hits me with the same amount of ridiculousness that the person with the sign on the promenade does. And so how can I and people like me sort of distinguish between fringe ideas, which necessarily need to be ignored when you're in such a loud world, and these fringe ideas which are very important to engage with because they might alter the shape of so many of our lives?
Yeah, that's another excellent question. I would say you should draw a distinction between the content of what is being said, which is just as fringy and unlikely as you think, and the power that comes along with it, which is the thing that should be frightening all of us. So I'm now going to be one of those guys saying the end is nigh, but I am not at all concerned that we are going to start believing that 2 + 2 = 5, because we're not. I am concerned that the movement that is carving out the right to claim that 2 + 2 = 5 is gaining power at a rate that is almost impossible to imagine. And it is the power of that movement, not their claims, that has me deeply concerned.
Got it. And so how did you know that? I mean, you were so prescient and so early at Evergreen in seeing the sorts of things that were happening in this groundswell, and it's been an idea that's been beaten to death. But I saw you the first time on the Joe Rogan Experience, and I think my reaction to you was the same as everyone's else, which I thought you were an interesting and eloquent speaker, ultimately concerned with the problems of a small liberal college, which would never break out into the world because it was so patently anathema to what I experience in my day-to-day life. And I think this is another difficulty that I'm having, which is that when I speak to people on planet Earth in 3D, I do not encounter the types of radical ideas that are so commonplace on the internet. And I am very much struggling to find someone that I could speak to as a representative of some of these more radical ideas to A, convince me that these people do actually exist outside of internet trolls, and B, to humanize them for me so I can understand what it is that they're trying to accomplish. And then when I can't find them, I often just go, you know what? I overreacted. There was, this was just this one moment in time. The sun is shining. Everything is beautiful. And so I'm curious, for my own personal decisions that I make in my own life, how can I accurately decide to stay involved with these larger movements that nonetheless do not seem to touch my life in any sort of day-to-day way?
Well, there's a complex answer that I think we have to invoke here. One is your instinct that these people who espouse these incredible beliefs are almost non-existent is right. They are almost non-existent. But again, that doesn't mean that they are not driving a system in which many people are signing on. No doubt you have just with yourself held some kind of discussion about how you feel about the claim that Black Lives Matter. And I'm just going to guess that, like me, you feel like it shouldn't need to be said, but it does need to be said. And to the extent that what it really means is that Black lives are undervalued in the U.S., that's true. It's a problem that demands a solution, and the solution is overdue. And so we can embrace the idea. But then if you dig into what Black Lives Matter stands for, what is inside the box with that label on it, you discover a whole host of other things that you probably, at the very least, would want to slow down and unpack. Like there's some problem with the idea of the nuclear family, or shut down STEM, or all cops are bastards, or whatever it might be. Or that, Marxism is somehow an up-to-date solution to the problems confronting us that derive from capitalism. So, I think the problem is most people don't approach it the way I know from watching a bit of your podcast that you do. You're going to sort these things carefully, and you're going to make sure that you don't sign up for things just on the basis of a slogan that appeals to you. But most people are very busy. They're tuned into channels that are full of lots of noise. And so their sense is, if somebody says, Black Lives Matter, do you agree? The answer is, well, sure.
And those are the people that I'm... Hope that you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to see more like this and have us do more podcasts, we are 100% funded by our generous patrons. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link in the description, and we'll have one pop up on the screen right here so that we can do more podcasts where we have fun conversations and hopefully some deep ones like this. Either way, hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.